Idly ho, neighborinos, and this is the Blizzard Watch podcast. Thank you guys so much for being here with us. This week we have our two titans of always being here. Liz, I am in charge of everything, and you must bow down before me, Harper. And Joe, I am the glue that keeps the world going, and if I leave for even a second, everything dies. Perez, hi to both of you.
Is it like object permanence? If I'm not in the room, do you cease to exist?
I think it's more like Galactus. Where like if something happened to you, the cosmos would just shatter and a jerk version of you shows up.
I can believe that. So
yeah. But regardless, yes, there's Liz, who's I guess Liz would be the one above all. Yeah, Liz is the one above all. And you're like Galactus. And then we've got our recurring guest host, Phil, who's like Adam Warlock in that he knows everything that's going on and we're all very confused as to what he's talking about. And then he leaves and we're like, what happened? Where did he go?
Does Adam Warlock also occasionally have to remind the one above all to eat? Because if so, that's me.
Yeah, because the one above all, in Marvel is actually just Jack Kirby. So yeah, basically someone will have to go in and remind him to eat.
Go, hey, eat a croissant or something. Yeah, that's cool.
Hey,
anyway,
don't want to get too hungry. Having a Slim Jim or something.
Yeah, but it's a recurring. It's not even a joke at this point. On Mondays and Wednesdays, 30 minutes before raid, I have to remind Liz to eat some food.
Quite frankly, if I could get your services, it would be helpful for me as well.
Start a reminder list.
Yeah, just you.
And Liz Pat sent me a reminder 30 minutes before the podcast to eat something. So I obviously did not eat something 30 minutes before the podcast when she reminded me, but she did remind me. So there is that.
All is in your court, Liz.
I got 3 days of the week covered, and I'm doing my best. Yeah, that's about all I got.
But while we could sit and do the entire podcast reminding Liz to eat, eventually we should probably talk about Blizzard and its many games and other games as well. First up, the thing I want to talk about most is part of this PAX East thing. If you missed it, as we're recording this, PAX East was last weekend, the one we just came through?
Yeah, the just happened.
Okay, and so a bunch of stuff was revealed. One of them is that we're getting the remix treatment for Legion. We're getting Legion Remix. I think they found a way to get me to play Legion again. It took you some time, but you've managed it. I really like the remix concept because it's basically takes all the cruft of leveling and just kind of goes, what if we turn all that down and we turn ridiculously fast leveling all the way up and you just go? And I find that to be a beautiful thing. So yeah, they're doing Legion Remixed. Besides myself, is anyone else here interested in this?
Oh yeah, I can't wait for this. This is the one I was predicting they were going to do after the phenomenal success of Remists.
I didn't think they were going to do.
I was like, Legion has to be next.
Yeah, it can't be. They're not going to do Warlords of Draenor remix. I mean, come on. At least not initially. I kind of thought the other one they might do was Wrath.
Yeah, I think Wrath could have been that because it's such a classic story. Everyone wants to go back to Icecrown and kill Arthas all over again.
Yeah, but I think that's going to be its own special event, and that would probably be potentially the one after this, right? Like,
yeah,
I could see it. I'm excited for the Legion. Not that the Legion expansion was whatever for me, but I'm excited for Legion Remix. It's going to give me an excuse to actually level a rogue. So I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, I'm wondering how they're going to deal with the class halls. I know that they're not going to put class halls in for every class, so that's interesting.
I mean, they're still there. The only thing is the evokers, and Evokers actually have their own weird solution right now. Like, they don't get a class hall storyline, and you pick your assault points from and run missions from a map next to Khadgar in the Violet Citadel.
Oh, you're here. Well, here's a map.
Yeah. Oh, hey. Here's some missions, I guess.
Are you a dragon? What's the deal? Anyway.
Moving on.
As you're time traveling, Chromie's like, listen, just don't even admit it. Just say you're an elf. But no, look, they can't handle it. They cannot handle this. Take this from Auntie Chromie. They cannot take it. Just BS them. They'll go along with it. Lots of stuff's happening. Oh, all right, fine, whatever.
Yeah, I'm anticipating they'll leave like some of the a lot of the main quest stuff was in there for Remist, and I think it'll be the same thing. I think you'll see the Class Hall storylines stay in there because some of those are really cool and a lot of fun stuff happened in them. I'm guessing the artifact weapons will replace the Cloak of Infinite Potential this time around. So that's
Yeah.
gonna be
it feels
going to
likely.
be interesting carrying around 3 artifacts. But they'll probably just have the same power level apply to any of them. But that's going to be interesting to see, especially since the thing with the Cloak of Infinite Potential was the things you socketed in your other gear to give yourself like weird superpowers. Whereas in Legion, it was all about the weapon and the things on the weapon. And I wonder if maybe we'll see like those relic slots get adapted, because I don't know if any of our listeners are old enough to remember when the relics in Legion did things, but they actually like added to specific talent nodes in your artifact talent tree. So maybe we'll see those come back as where you get to pick your like cool remix powers from.
Yeah, if you've been transmog farming recently, there was a time where those things weren't just an extra 10 gold.
Yeah, get those from a boss in Antorus. I'm like, right, this expansion, and throw them at a vendor.
So in addition to that, the other thing I find interesting here, and I'm kind of terrified by it, but also at the same time kind of happy about it, is they're going to have more experimental modes that are kind of outside of WoW. They're like the way Plunderstorm was, so you don't actually even have to log into the main game. And one of them has the screenshot we've got here is Darkshire. I don't think we know what this is going to be.
They really did not talk about this at all. I mean, they just basically came up and they had a screenshot of Darkshire. Like, we're going to run more experimental modes.
You can make an educated guess, maybe.
We did make several guesses, but all they really said was that it's darker or scarier than Plunderstorm with this Darkshire screenshot. It's not going to be another battle royale or Fortnite clone like Plunderstorm was, but that's all we know as a fact.
I'm just reminded I feel that like several patches ago we found data mined scripts or strings or objects or whatever that seem to hint at a Vampire Survivors alike mode. And I'm just saying Darkshire would be perfect for that kind of thing. I mean, you've already got your boss monster wandering out of the woods. Patches is now your wave 20 boss or whatever.
I mean, nothing's ever going to recreate the feeling that you had if you played vanilla the first time you ran into Patches or heard that Patches is coming. Yes. Nothing's ever going to do that. But I still would love.
How hard could it be?
Yeah, I tried to solo him.
Yeah,
did not work. My level 20 character was not ready. Although there are so many things in Darkshire that I think would work really well for if you were trying some kind of survival mode of whatever it's Vampire Survivors or if it's something else. Like Arceus, there's that one kind of elite skeleton guy who's at the end of a really long quest to just even get him to spawn. And then when he spawns, he's like this deeply hard fight. And when you're done, you get a green sword out of it. And it was like, I've worked harder for this than I have for anything else. And the sword isn't even good now.
Classic WoW, everybody.
Yeah, but it looks cool, so I kept it. So yeah, I feel like that's an interesting idea. I also think it might be interesting to see if this becomes a thing that they keep doing. If they eventually have multiple ones in the rotation, what are they all going to be? I mean, are we going to have just like every time a game mode gets kind of popular, we're going to have a version of it in WoW? Will there eventually be a Hearthstone in WoW where you're playing Hearthstone, but you logged into WoW and you're like, wait, this isn't actually Hearthstone. It's a version of Hearthstone in WoW where my character is playing Hearthstone and occasionally fighting monsters. Like imagine if when you're playing Hearthstone in this version of WoW, someone puts down a card, the actual monster spawns up and you have to fight it.
Oh, so Hearthstone's Battlegrounds.
Yeah.
Now it sounds like Yu-Gi-Oh! The way you're describing it. I'm into it.
Oh God, let's not even get into Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! You getting off on this? Sorry, I will shut him now. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they could do with it. So I think this is just, even though I didn't actually like Plunderstorm, and I don't mean that as a neg or a diss against it. I wasn't really feeling Pirates at the moment in time when it came out. I still love the idea of them having weird modes to the game. I like the remix stuff a little more, but I do like the idea of, this time you can go and play Vampire Survivors in WoW or whatever. I do like the idea of that. I would love for them to put a fighting game in, like a straight up Capcom style beat 'em up with your character, possibly fighting NPCs. And it's, it's more 3D because WoW actually has that capacity. So you could do ring outs like in Soul Calibur. Soul Calibur. Hey, that one you could actually just have Arthas show up because he's practically a character in Soul Calibur anyway. But yeah, that's what we have from
Siegfried is
PAX
already
East.
Arthas, so we're good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
And the Soul Edge is just Frostmourne. It's whichever one of them came first. Really, they both rip it off Elric anyway. But so yeah, that's what we learned from PAX East. Can someone explain Turbo Boost to me? Because I think I understand what it is, but I want to hear from somebody because, quite frankly, I've been playing a lot of Diablo, and I want to possibly get back into WoW. Liz.
That's why I brought Phil. He can explain what is going on because I don't know. I think also Blizzard possibly doesn't know. So
yeah,
give it a go, Phil.
There has been some weird mixed messaging coming out of Blizzard, but the short version is that for this period of time of unknown length of time, I'm guessing the rest of season 2, gear is just more plentiful and more powerful. So the things they're doing include the upgrade crests for upgrading your gear are uncapped now, so you can farm to your heart's content. Things that dropped them before are now dropping more of them. The highest 2 tiers of gear, Hero and Myth, now have 2 more upgrade tracks, so you can just add more eye levels on there. You can boost crafted gear. And last but not least, we finally have the Season 2 Dinar system, the puzzling cartel chip, which was there, and then it was gone, and then it came back, and everyone was mad about it, and then it came in, and people are still a little mad about it, and I don't know. It's there. You can do it. You can do LFR for it, honestly, even though the quest doesn't say you can. I can verify firsthand that you can get credit for it, because I was doing it during the pre-show. And it's just a way to, over the next few weeks, pick out 3 pieces of raid or Mythic Plus loot for yourself. So it's just like the Turbo Boost is basically loot rains from the sky, and then you can power it up as high as you want. Also, if you haven't completed the Delver's Journey bar for Season 2 with Brann yet, they've doubled the rate at which that gains at this point, and also Brann gains more XP. I guess they want to make sure everyone has their brands up to level 80 for wherever we end up delving in Season 3.
This is making me feel like a genius for never finishing leveling up Brann. I'm doing great over here.
I've been doing so many more delves in Season 2 since they added Gilded Crest to them as a way to get them without needing to run M+. My Brann is still not max level, so I'm hoping he will be by the time this event is over.
Seriously, what are you doing in between delves that you're not getting in here? I'm sorry, I have to sleep a lot.
Once a week, people make me come lead a raid. But this also coincides
only
really
once a week.
Nicely. Yeah, only twice a week. This coincides really nicely, though, with the other event that's going on right now, which is the leveling event. So it's way easier to level up some alts, run some delves, accumulate your currencies, pick out 3 pieces of raid or M+ loot for your alt. Just get those characters up that if you like playing them, get them up, get them ready to play, get them some loot. Which is because the transmog is obviously the real end game of WoW, but the loot treadmill is also there. So
loot treadmill is how I get my transmog gear. I mean, come on.
Exactly. You got to have the better loot so you can run the old raids for the transmog faster.
The thing that kind of confuses me about we're having this big leveling gearing boost going on in WoW, but also we're talking about Legion Remix on the horizon. And both of these are like the most fantastic ways to level alts in the main game right now. It's the fastest it's ever been to level an alt with the current mysteries something buff that's going on. Winds of Mysterious Fortune. I think Winds of Mysterious Fortune was the last one, and I've already forgotten what this one is called.
No, that actually is this one. You are correct. This is the Winds of Mysterious Fortune. The last one was Turbulent Timeways, which
but we're getting Turbulent Timeways is coming again next patch.
Yep.
So okay.
It will be back because BFA Time Walking will be coming in, so they're doing it again.
Oh yeah. But these are the 2 ways to level your alts. So, I mean, you can level your alts however you want. I don't judge. But these are ways that have been really fast to really speed up your leveling. So, how many alts do we all have left to level? I mean, I felt like I leveled a bunch of alts during remists. And then we've got this kind of alt leveling extravaganza in WoW right now. So I've been leveling some more alts. And I'm like, what am I even going to have left to level? By the time Legion comes around, what am I even going to play? I don't know.
How did Liz get this level 80 mage bank alt?
Yeah, the only thing I have...
80
she
mage
has
alt.
that. Yes.
Yeah, the only thing I have not leveled yet is a rogue. That's it.
Yeah, Liz, who played one character for the entirety of season 1, like has I think 4 or 5 characters at cap now.
4. I'm not an alt player. I'm just really not. I pick one character and like I figure out how to play that character, and I just play that character. So yes, these alt leveling events are usually kind of lost on me, and yeah. But here I am. I'm on my second main of this expansion. That is extremely unusual for me. But here we are. And what am I supposed to level next? When does it end? I don't know.
I don't think it ends.
Does
It just
it end?
you hit the time that you're playing something else for a while. Like for me, it's mostly Diablo 4. But I have been thinking about going back to WoW almost continuously. So I'll just jump in here, or maybe depending on how I feel about the next Diablo 4 season. Because right now, the Belial deal is not. I like it fine as D4, but the season stuff is not interesting enough to me to level another character through seasons. I'm sorry, I'm just not that interested in leveling yet again.
No, that's fair.
I've also hit that point in Diablo 4. Like Diablo 4 is really fun, but it just feels like I'm doing the same thing over and over again, and it sounds cool, but I've done this so many times, and this doesn't. Yeah, I'm not enthusiastic about this season of Diablo 4.
Yeah, I feel like they need
fine.
to do something different with seasons, quite frankly.
Yeah, but
they need to start thinking about how to do this differently. Not that Reliquaries isn't this great earth-shaking system that makes everything better. Please don't come for me in the night, BattleNet. But regardless, it wasn't my thing.
And the thing is, in the Diablo 4 roadmap, it looks like, no, this is a season. This is what we're doing for seasons now. And this is what we're going to keep doing for seasons because we had that one popular season and now we're going to duplicate it every season. And it really kind of took my enthusiasm out of the thing. So I haven't played much Diablo 4, which of course leaves me more time to finish up my WoW alts so that I can get to Legion Remix and not have any more alts to level and be really confused staring at a character creation screen.
Well, the good news is, as Flan points out in chat, thank you, Winds of Mysterious Fortune ends next Tuesday. So you'll have a little breather before it's time to level in.
I have so many things to finish before next Tuesday then.
Yep. Do you?
Do you really?
I guess I've got a mage to finish leveling.
I've got this Volpera warrior, and I have not finished leveling my paladin, even though it would take like 2 delves to finish that off, probably. So I should just go and do those 2 delves, and then I'd be done.
Should. Especially since I know you can play Holy Paladin, so you can level on the easiest mode, making Brann do all the work.
See, I don't trust Brann for that, man.
Yeah, I don't know that I do either.
Brann and I are not friends right now. That's a whole story.
Brann and I are not friends right now.
This
is like summing up Bronn's entire existence.
Yeah. I've been trying to finish the double ? Solo difficulty of the Underpin, and the biggest problem in that fight is Brann Bronzebeard. Because the Underpin can decide to target him for his abilities, including moving to him with his stomp, and that is when everything goes to heck in a handbag. Like the fight is about tightly controlling positioning and adds, and if he decides to jump to Brann, who's halfway across the arena firing his gun, and then spawn his adds, they could be anywhere. Also, shout out to Brann, where at one point there was a slow period in the animations, and I was able to focus to realize Brann was channeling his DPS cooldown on me. It's like, yeah, you know that thing where that thing in DPS mode where he hops on a griffin and throws hammers at the enemy over and over and over. I'm trying to break the Underpin's shield, and he's throwing hammers at me. They weren't doing damage, but what happened, Brann? I think he's taking.
I just went out of this delve.
I think he's taken one too many blows to the head in those delves.
I
Maybe I
mean,
shouldn't be making him tank.
He has been running a lot of delves.
He
He's
really has.
been all over the place this expansion. So.
Yeah,
But that's enough about my rivalry with a imaginary dwarf.
Yeah, I still have negative feelings for Brann for remembering all the way back in, again, Wrath of the Lich King, where he got me in trouble with a bunch of trolls who did not want me wandering around. So I was like, oh God, Brann, what are you doing? Anyway, though, I do think we should move on to talking about actual Hearthstone after we talked about, fictionalized possible Hearthstone. Next week, as we're recording this, we're going to get the mini set, which is a small set of cards for Hearthstone.
Next week, that is this week. That is today. The new Hearthstone mini set, Embers of the World Tree, is now live.
It says May 13th right here. Why did you do this to me? It's not May 13th, isn't it?
That's today, Matt.
Today is May 13th?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I thought it was like May 6th. My brain.
Oh dear.
Yeah. My brain does not like me. Okay, yeah, that's today. May 13th is today. I was a week ago. I'm back now. Oh God.
You're just doing some really rapid fire. I'm trying.
Yeah. It was
okay.
It's like I wasn't elastic and it's been released and now I'm like twang. Okay. But yeah, mini set, little cards, Embers of the World Tree. I think you can kind of tell it's about fire in the World Tree. If you remember the end of the Dragonflight where the World Tree was on fire, like that. So yeah, you guys will play Hearthstone.
It is Fyrak is a new legendary card in this, and he is instead of setting world trees on fire, he probably also wants to do that, but he's here to set your Hearthstone cards on fire. And they smolder in your hand the longer you hold on to them, increasing their effects. And then, but if you don't play them, they can, burn to ash and you discard them. So that's kind of the new mechanic in this mini set. But it feels like we've been talking about this one every week because it's been a very short release schedule for this mini set. Like, they announced it and we talked about it when they announced it, and then it was a week before it was going to be released, so we talked about it because it was happening next week, and now it's released, and now we're talking about it again, and it feels like
next week we'll be talking about it because I will have forgotten that happened last week.
Next week we'll be talking about it for some reason, I'm sure, because it feels like every week more Hearthstone, but it's actually the same Hearthstone. New mini set, Embers of the World Tree, now available, 2,000 gold, or you can pay real money for it if you want. But if you save up your quest earnings, you can manage to hit that 2,000 gold and buy it without submitting cash, which I think is kind of the best part.
Okay, let's mention really fast this Overwatch news, although we don't have to take that much time with it. Overwatch 2 team has been the second team at Blizzard to unionize. So on the one hand, yay, good. More unions is good. On the other hand, no, yay, good. Unions are good. I got nothing else. Just, it's good that they unionized. It's good that you did that, Overwatch 2 team.
Good job, Overwatch 2 team.
Yeah, I do, however.
Good to see them get a win.
I do, however, I think Liz pointed this out the last time we were talking about unionization in gaming. So when I butcher it, she'll come in and actually explain what she really said. But I feel like we have to be aware that just because they get their unionized, it doesn't mean they've actually gotten the company to agree to anything yet, aside from the fact that they're going to have a union. So this is the beginning of an uphill fight, but it's still good that we've begun the uphill fight. Is that close at all to what you were saying last time?
That is extremely close. I mean, Microsoft has recognized the union, but that doesn't mean that all of a sudden things are sunshine and puppies, They still have to negotiate a contract, and they have to make a deal, and Microsoft is under no obligation to make that easy for them. So this is step one. This is not the home stretch yet. Yeah, you're exactly right. It's great that they have done this. It is a wall-to-wall union for the Overwatch team, which means it's everyone in it together. So that gives them more bargaining power. And the Overwatch team has been kind of They've really gotten the short end of the stick. I feel like we maybe make a few occasional jokes about Overwatch 2 because maybe it is not our favorite version of Overwatch, and maybe we really wanted to play a PvE Overwatch. Maybe we really wanted to see more stories and cinematics, which the team has canceled. And that's very disappointing. And But
how much of that is the team versus
exactly.
situation
That's
the team
not
is put in? Yeah.
That's not the fault of the team. That's the fault of management. It's the fault of, a vision of the game that didn't match expectations. That's the fault of telling players, this is what we're doing. We're making this big PvE mode that you'll be able to see all of these stories. And then you couldn't deliver on that. That's not the fault of the developers. But because of that, Overwatch 2 has not been hitting its kind of financial goals in the company because, it's kind of had to backslide on features it promised, and it's done a lot of things that have disappointed players. And one of the changes that Bobby Kotick made on his way out the door was to change the way Blizzard did profit sharing. It used to be that teams got a bonus twice a year based on the success of the company overall. If the company met its financial goals, everyone would get a bonus. But Kotick changed this on his way out shortly before he left, and to where the bonuses were tied to how well your team was doing, your specific development project, not the whole company, but your team. That means the Overwatch team has not been getting bonuses, any of them. So they have been
it's pretty rough
really
start.
Mistreated here. And it's not the development team's fault,
No, it isn't. I mean, it is rumors that he also threw an orphan in front of a train have not been substantiated. Those are merely allegations. But I mean, he was seen, waxing his mustache from maximum twirling whilst cackling. I'm sorry, that has nothing to do with anything. But my God, he's literally not even there anymore.
Yeah,
he's getting his hat.
Spite on his way out the door.
Putting his hat, putting his coat on, and by the way, orphan into the furnace.
His point was that you would be more encouraged to make a better game if you had financial stake in it like this. Was kind of like your financial stake should be tied to your success as a team. But the Overwatch team's success is not a reflection of the talent of the development staff. No,
and let's be honest, the reason that he made that change is because it means a smaller payout overall when certain teams that are in a non-easily monetized position like Overwatch, which, yes, you can sit there and I can hear people argue that, that has plenty of monetization possibilities. And it does, but also if nobody's playing your game because development has been shifted or not as many people are playing it as they did the first one, you're probably going to have, a hard time making whatever your goal numbers are. It's intentional. It's intentional to reduce the amount of money that's paid out, and so that he had a bigger little golden parachute on his way out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Which is,
but
again,
anyway, I think
not indicative of the work that's being done on the game.
This is at least one of the driving forces behind the union, because Blizzard does tend to pay lower than you might see at other companies in the area. We've heard a lot of things about how people going to Riot Games have gotten big pay raises, and part of that is because Blizzard has always done profit sharing that gives you these reliable twice-a-year bonuses, which kind of bring up that pay package. And cutting that out, that, you remove money people are relying on as part of their salary, that's suddenly just not there. And it's not like they can just work harder and suddenly make Overwatch 2 a huge financial success. So these guys were really, really in a bad situation. I hope that having this union will let them push forward and get a fair compensation package, and just get a good deal here. But the truth is that Microsoft they don't have to immediately say, we'll fix this right now. They don't have to do that. It could be years before anything, but it's a first step.
Yeah.
Yes. I am trying to get my computer to do things and it doesn't want. Not a surprise. However, whilst I'm trying to get this thing to flip over to the thing I'm talking about, which is namely, yes, here we are. Site news. Thank God I finally get this thing to open. Liz, please tell us.
I've just done all of this talking, and now I have to do more talking.
I can read this if you want, and it's right here.
No, I got it. I can do it. It's the Blizzard Watch is made possible by listeners like you, readers like you, people like you who come here and listen to us talk, read our articles on the website. You are what makes the site thrive and grow. And I want to thank a supporter, Rin Rim, who upgraded their pledge to $8 this week. That is great. Thank you so much for supporting us. That really helps us out. If you out there are also in a position to support us, you can find us on patreon.com/BlizzardWatch. If you subscribe at $3 a month, you get early access to these podcasts ad-free. And also you can ask us questions in our Discord or by email, podcast@blizzardwatch.com. We answer questions from Patreon supporters first. So if you want to reach out, that is a good way to do it. But I gotta be honest, we take questions from anybody. We are happy to answer your questions if you send them. And you can also get for $5 a month, you can get the site ads free, which is also a nice perk. And if you can't support us financially, totally understand. Times are tough. Then we also appreciate moral support. It's great. And you can also support us very much by liking, sharing, subscribing to anything. If you like our content, share it. Tell a friend about it. Leave a comment. All of that helps us out so much. We do currently have a survey going on about our podcast that can help us improve our podcast and help us attract advertisers. If you have a few minutes to sit down and fill it out, it really helps us. That is at bit.ly/BlizzardWatch podcast -survey. That's bit.ly BlizzardWatch podcast, all one word, -survey. So if you have time, we appreciate it. And of course, we have 2 other podcasts, Tavern Watch and Lore Watch. If you want to hear about tabletop games, that's Tavern Watch. If you want to hear about video game stories, that is Lore Watch. And you can follow us on our social media to keep up with us. And that's where sharing things can really help us out. We are Blizzard Watch on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, Facebook, and Mastodon at gamepad.club. We're blizzardwatch.com on Bluesky and Blizzard Watch podcasts on YouTube. You can follow us for the latest news, Anna and I being increasingly unhinged in the modern world, and for colorful clips of our podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for your support.
Okay, before we move on to questions, we usually do some outside game talks. There's nothing in here this week because I didn't get a chance to look at the document until just before we went on. But I do want to talk really briefly about Clair Obscur Expedition 33 because it's kind of a massive hit. It sold 2 million copies in 12 days. And one of those, like half of those sales were the first 3 days at launch. This was a game like about 33 odd people made. This isn't a giant AAA company. This is a relatively small group. The lead writer, they hired him off Reddit. The person who made the score for the game was a SoundCloud guy. They basically went and he was gigging and they just hired him from that. It's kind of crazy how successful this game is. I have not played it yet. I have downloaded it because it's free on Game Pass. So yeah, that's also, think about the fact that it's sold 2 million copies in less than 2 weeks while it's on Game Pass, which means other people are playing it without even spending money on it. Yep, that's kind of wild.
We've got a guildmate who's heavily into it and has been on me to play it because he does. I'm really into RPGs, but I just came off of another 90+ hour RPG, so I'm kind of holding off before I get it right away.
Yeah, I'm not holding off, but
I want to use this to say that part of the reason that they were able to put together their team in such an eclectic manner is because this game, which is very, very French in its aesthetics, was partially subsidized by the government of France because art funding is important and good.
Yeah, and France actually they also have a great union culture over there too, by the way, if you want to look at games with unions. But the real thing about Expedition 33 that gets me is one of the main characters is very obviously voiced by Jennifer English, the voice of Shadowheart from Baldur's Gate 3. And it's real hard not to mistake them. Like, she does a different thing with the voice, but every so often I'm like, oh, right. You're not the half-elven shadow cleric that I have to make moral decisions for. You're somebody else I have to make moral decisions for. But yeah, I wanted to mention it just because it is kind of wild to see this game just kind of explode out of nowhere. I mean, people knew it was coming. People were talking about it. It didn't like literally show up on the doorstep saying, hi, I've got a big sign that says purchase. But it was still, I find it kind of wild that this game just boomed 2 million copies in like 2 weeks. That's wild for a company like, even with French funding. And also, we also have to thank France for Greedfall while we're at it, because without France, Spiders would never have been able to make any games, much less Greedfall or the upcoming Greedfall 2. So yeah, it turns out the French are very, very gradually making it so we have nice things so we don't go crazy while the world burns. Thank you, French people.
I think one of the interesting things about this is that we are looking at some games right now that are extremely successful, extremely fun, that were not made by massive AAA development teams, that are technically smaller games. These aren't the big tentpole games that everyone knows are coming out. I mean, these certainly Clair Obscur hit me out of the blue. I didn't know. I'd heard the name before it came out, but now it's everywhere. A lot of people are talking about it. And so it's interesting to see these smaller games, these smaller studios create things that are just extremely successful. And it makes me wonder, what's the role of big companies in gaming right now? Because we are seeing, it feels like we're seeing a lot of indie games that are very high quality and are reaching a large audience out there. Whereas the big companies, it feels like their games are increasingly samey because they're maybe spending 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years developing them, millions of dollars, and they have to have a sure bet when you're putting that kind of investment up. But
yeah,
smaller,
I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head there. Like when you're spending that much money, you have to do the safe thing.
Well, the thing is, it's not that they have to; they're choosing to, because they don't.
Yeah, that's true.
This is people that are not necessarily involved in development or don't necessarily have their pulse on what a gaming community is really into or looking for, that is making a decision. We need this game to be this plus this and make this much money. End of story. And then when it doesn't do that, they get into whatever their mood is, and then you have the downsizing of various company personnel. If they would have just made the game that was originally pitched, they would have made money hand over fist. So it's people that run it like a business and forget that it's still a game, and you want people to have fun in it, because when people have fun in your game, they tell other people, and other people play your game, so they buy it, and you just make money. And I'm not like trying to oversimplify it, but like it really does come to that. Somewhere along the line, they forgot about that. And that's the problem.
I'm going to do it again, because I've used the podcast repeatedly to plug 1000 Times Resist. After I finished playing it, they just won a Peabody Award for writing. Mm-hmm. So go play that game. I really need this game to get a Mac port someday so Liz can play it. It's so good.
Well, plus, I mean, let's not kid ourselves in the fact that one person I saw somewhere, I forget which one I was reading. There's a lot of them, and I watch all of them and then disagree. I guess it's kind of my job. But he was talking about how he thought Oblivion was going to crush this game. When the surprise Oblivion announcement happened, that it was just going to utterly destroy this game. Instead, they both did well. Clair Obscur sold the aforementioned games. Oblivion downloads and sales are ridiculous for a game that's literally it's a remaster of a game from 2006, I want to say, maybe 2008, but it's an old game, and it also did ridiculously well.
We are here largely talking about a game released in 2004 that we all continue to play. So
I'm not saying it's bad that people like it, but it's a single player game. It's not a continuing. People have not been working on Oblivion for 20 years. Or 21 years now. Hold on a second. I have to look at the Holy Grail, but it's a false Grail and a melt. Anyway, I just think it's interesting that this happened, and there's no downside here. You put Oblivion out, people who wanted Oblivion got Oblivion. You put Clair Obscur out, people who wanted Clair Obscur got Clair Obscur. Some of those people were the same people. There's at least, there is some overlap between these two games. If you liked one, you're probably willing to at least try the other. And it didn't hurt them. I feel like a lot of times people think these games have to be competitions. It has to be a fight. Doom: The Dark Ages is coming out tomorrow.
2 days.
Unless you already pre-ordered it. But, people will be able to get it tomorrow who are not even paying it. That's just on Game Pass. I am going to get that game on Game Pass. I don't think people for years now have been making this is always continuously fighting between big games. It doesn't have to be. We don't have to have Skyrim dominates and every other game that comes out at the same time just meekly walks to its death. If certain companies, I'm looking directly at you, Electronic Arts, had actually backed games that they put out, those games would have done better than they did. And there's just a lot of that. Like when you see companies just putting out their own games and supporting their own games, they can do well. And they don't have to be in competition with anybody else, even if they're similar in their appeal. There's something I really want to see more of, and I hope to everything that's good that we get more. But that's probably all we need to talk about on that one. So now it's time to go to our emails. I'm going to skip this first one because while I would like to talk about it,
I was about to throw it on the gauntlet. I was literally about to delete it out of the document.
Yeah, I knew Joe was going to say that. So we're actually going to head down to Tetsemi first. I don't know if we've talked about this kind of stuff in general before, but I am curious about it. What are the current strengths and weaknesses of Blizzard's current offerings? What game or game types would you add to their portfolio, and what game, if any, would you remove or replace? I'm going to throw this one to Phil first because he's the guest, and so he should get the hardest questions first.
Oh God, yeah, I don't have a prepared answer for that one. I don't know. I'd say the weakness rate. This is going to sound just like me harping on the same thing I complain about all the time, but I feel like a lot of their more recent game offerings have kind of had the same weakness in that they have pushed monetization first and gameplay second, which I know is more of an executive thing than a development team thing, obviously. But when we talk about Overwatch 2, it's about how weak some of the additions have been, minus arcade mode, which is cool, versus, selling more skins. And one of the biggest things about the reliquaries in Diablo 4, choose your own rewards. That's cool. They also made you get a lot less the premium currency, and now you have to pay the premium currency to get the premium currency. It actually costs more money now for the premium battle pass than it used to. And I don't really have a good solution to that. I don't know what else they should add to their lineup at the speed of development of AAA games. I don't know. Maybe we need that World of Warcraft fighting game Matt was talking about. But just I think that's kind of the biggest weakness right now is a lot of gameplay seems to be taking a backseat to monetization. Diablo 4 is definitely a big thing of this where they've latched onto the one thing that's worked. I guess they're just going to do it for eternity as long as they can sell you $25 skins. I'd stop doing that, but I'm not in the process of having to please shareholders. So
I would point at you and disagree, Phil, if I hadn't just dropped money that I don't have on the Berserk skins, and I'm feeling really bad about my options and my choices in life. But the sword is so cool.
Don't get me started on that set, Matt. I'm so mad about this Berserk. I hate the way they did this Berserk collaboration.
Dude, I had to have the sword. I don't care.
I get it. It's Guts' sword.
Do you know how much it took me to resist purchasing all of the stuff for the Cowboy Bebop crossover? Even though I'm barely playing Overwatch, that's how bad I wanted it. But also, I agree with Phil.
I agree with Phil, but I was weak and broke. I just
no.
admit it.
You're fine.
I was looking at Guts' sword and going, "It's Guts' sword."
But
there's
Matthew, what's your hand doing? My hand is moving
morally
this mouse.
Wrong. There's nothing
this
wrong
mouse
with spending money on a thing you like, but
there's nothing wrong with it morally. But sometimes it's self-destructive. I couldn't. There's other things I couldn't get this month.
But that's not a I don't think an answer to the question at hand here. Which we've all been in that situation. But taking it back to the question, I agree with Phil that I think that Blizzard is, as a company, focusing more on monetization and less on gameplay, and that makes a lot of things less fun and enjoyable. There's what made Blizzard the powerhouse that it was for so long was that Blizzard just made games that people wanted to play. The money came as a result of the fact that people wanted to play the game. Somewhere along the line, the executives, Bobby Kotick, bred a culture where it became more about the money than everything else. And now with the new corporate overlords, there's that fear that that's going to be a lot of that as well. And I'm sure, we see it, right? It's still there. Diablo 4 was one of the most anticipated games that they have ever had. and they managed to turn off a lot of like longtime Diablo players because of their choices for it. Overwatch 2 is a great example of a game that should have been an easy home run. It should have bonkers numbers. It should have insane engagement, and it really doesn't. They're struggling, or at least they're struggling from where they think they should be. There's far less people playing it than I think would have if they had, actually made the game that people wanted to play. Like, it's almost like Blizzard did the thing where it thought it could do no wrong and just went all in on that, right? So that's the biggest weakness of Blizzard's current offerings, is they need to get back to their roots. And that's not a condemnation on the people that are making these games. There are very passionate people that are making these games, and this is one of their strengths, where you have people who care very much about the content. They care about the gameplay. They care about making a fun experience. As a matter of fact, some of my favorite developers are actually going back to Blizzard, and it makes me excited for some of the things that we'll see in the future. But they need to, as a company, just make fun games and watch the money that will flow in from it.
I will say on a positive note that I do think that WoW is some of the most fun it's been in years.
Oh, yeah. Hands down.
We can have discussions about complications in classes or whatever. And yeah, there's some nitpicks you could change. But like overall, I think WoW is at a peak that it probably hasn't been in a couple expansions now. And I am very pleased with that game. I still continue to enjoy the time I spend in it every week.
Same. So, like I'm not frustrated or feeling like I have nothing to do, and I'm enjoying my time in it for sure. Right.
Exactly. And it's because they're focusing on making a fun game. They're listening to the community, even if sometimes they aren't that great at communicating back. That's a skill they can work on. Like they're doing the thing you said. They're making a fun game. They're not worrying about how do we charge more money for transmog suits in the shop. How do we drive people to go look at our cash stuff? It's how do we make a fun game? People keep coming back to play, and then the money will come.
And that's in going to that, like what we would want to add to their lineup. Like, and I'm gonna do Corey a solid here because Corey's not here to drop it. But honestly, revisiting games like Heroes of the Storm, I cannot for the life of me believe that Heroes of the Storm was not profitable. And it's one of those things where I understand that maybe at the time they pulled people to go work on other projects because they thought that they were going to be a higher priority. But look at the game genre of MOBAs right now, and it's sort of grown stale. Smite 2 is on the horizon, and that's getting mixed reviews, especially from people that are like, we're hardcore Smite 1 players, because their stuff's not transferring over. I'm going to do something where I want to talk about this next week, because it's been a cluster of a development process for the second one. But like, what else is out there besides League of Legends and Dota 2? What other MOBA games are widely available that aren't something that is a small mobile game, which I'm not saying are not real MOBAs, not getting into that debate, but there hasn't been another competitor to that field in a long time. And Heroes of the Storm did something that those other games didn't do. They made MOBAs accessible. Bring that back. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the most surprising thing about Heroes of the Storm for me one day was I had been raiding, and we took our break, and I went out to the living room, and I heard some sounds coming from my wife's laptop. She's not really a gamer, and I said, "Oh, what are you doing?" She says, "Oh, I got an ad for this game, Heroes of the Storm. I was just trying it out." I was like, "You've never played a MOBA, you haven't played a video game in years, and you were trying Heroes of the Storm? Yeah, let me go log in. We can play this." And it was just really cool. It was very accessible. She got into it. I mean, that's the kind of like experience you don't get for a MOBA. She's never going to get League of Legends because that's not really a game. That's Riot doing like SCP level containment on some of the most toxic parts of the gaming universe.
Well, I will 100%. I've made this argument before, and I'll make it again. I get way less random hate in League these days than I did in Overwatch.
Yeah, maybe they all moved over there. But yeah, it's just like they had something on their hands, and I don't know, maybe it was manpower or profitability or bottom line or whatever. But yeah, bring back. I know that Heroes of the Storm has fans at Microsoft. Bring it back. Come on.
And I would also argue that Heroes didn't crush its opponents before it and do what other Blizzard games have done, where they completely take over the ecosystem.
Yeah,
it was successful by other people's standards. It wasn't successful by Blizzard standards at the time.
And I think we need to understand, and they need to understand that games don't need to be like that anymore. Just make a game that people want to play. And again, cosmetics will float that game. It will make it profitable, make new champions, make new maps, make development content on it, and people will throw money at it. The number of like $30 skins I bought for that game is not inconsequential.
You and me both. I have a disturbing number of Tyrande skins.
And I'm going to say one other thing that, and then I'll shut up and let other people answer this question, but I feel very strongly about this. Blizzard needs to make a single player game again. Not everything has to be connected to the GD internet. Not everything has to be online constantly. Not everything has to be an exercise in how many players can be in a space at one point in time. Like, don't get me wrong.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I am absolutely positive.
Okay.
I'm with Joe on this.
Looking at some of the hottest titles that have released over the last 5 years, and them being single player games, is not a coincidence. There's a market for it, and Blizzard hasn't been in that market in decades at this point. Make me a Ghost game. Make me a single player game that you should have all along. Even Diablo 4. Diablo 4, and this is my hot take, I don't like the fact that it's online and MMO all the time, and I'm sure some people love it, but like it should have been
not a hot take.
But it should have been a single player game that gave you the option to go into a lobby with other people. I understand that the desire for it, but I think people wanted a single player game like Diablo 2 that you could open up to public rooms and have multiple people play. And I think it would be insanely more successful if they had that development in mind and didn't focus on monetization. And I'm very sorry, Liz, please go ahead.
I think part of the problem with all of these games is expectations, not just at Blizzard, industry-wide. We see when a company starts developing a game, is ready to release a game, they have certain financial expectations of that game. Those expectations may be unrealistically high.
Maybe. For
the game or the market. And then if the game does not reach these very high expectations, this is what we get. We get games canceled. We get developers laid off or reassigned because the company was counting on this to be a monumental success. And if it's just a pretty good success, that's not successful enough. So,
are you thinking like the numbers EA wanted for Dragon Age: The Veilguard?
Yeah, but also, we've signed Heroes of the Storm go into maintenance mode, and we're just talking right here about how this could not have been an unsuccessful game. Maybe it was not as successful as they wanted it to be. Maybe they didn't have. Maybe the team size wasn't right for the amount of game they were making. I don't know, but if a company sets financial expectations on the game and the game doesn't meet them, it can mean a canceled game. It can mean a downscaled game. It can mean a game that goes in the fridge and never comes out again. But that doesn't mean it's a bad game. That doesn't even mean it's not a financially successful game.
Mm-hmm.
It just means it's not as financially successful as companies wanted, as shareholders wanted. And somehow not being a massive out-of-the-ballpark success now means failure to a lot of companies.
Well, it's short-term profitability thinking, right? And we've seen this happen with not just gaming, but a whole bunch of the under industry as well. I mean, we talk about it on Tavern Watch all the time with Hasbro, who is probably one of the largest offenders of this, right? They focus on this immediate quarter of release, and if you did not make $1 billion, you are unsuccessful, versus how it used to be, and going back like 10 years, 15 years, where you would release something and you would have a projection for a length of time that it would be, profitable or whatever the case is. When WoW released, like, and I'm going to go back here to ye old age of 2004, WoW was not expected to be a success. It was not expected to be something that would be continually iterated upon. In fact, if you go back to some of the older interviews, a lot of people were saying that they didn't expect it to last longer than a year. They thought it was going to be a flash in the pan compared to the other MMOs that had already been established and the ones that were always releasing around them. And they didn't expect it to be massively profitable immediately. And what wound up happening was it was a cultural phenomenon. It was a huge success, but it was a huge success over a period of time. It wasn't that immediate month of release. It was over the course of 6 months, 8 months, a year. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, we've got something here. People are still going strong. They're still willing to pay this money. let's start working on an expansion for this. And then it just kind of took off from there because there wasn't this unrealistic expectation that you have to make all of the money in the world in your first week of release or you're cut completely. And then every game we've seen release since like the last 10-ish years, like more increase, like the Veilguard is a perfect example of that. You have to hit this unrealistic number of sales within your first 30 days or we're just shuttering the business. And they shuttered the business, right? Like they fired, moved a whole bunch of people around, stopped development on it, like with an unrealistic goal. Had they had maybe looked at long-term or maybe even 6 months, they probably would hit those numbers. You know what would have also helped that? If they would have announced that, yes, there's going to be a DLC, people probably would have bought it more than saying, oh, this is the only game you're getting. Suck it up, Buttercup. So Blizzard falls in that same
really
camp
weird,
sometimes too. Go ahead.
What's really weird too is that someone made a point that Expedition 33, Clair Obscur Expedition 33 made less money, even now had made less money than Veilguard. Veilguard made a lot of money, not enough money for the target, which was a ridiculous target, but it did make a lot of money. Like AAA failures generate a lot of money. And they're considered failures because they don't hit a target that isn't realistic. And we're at a point now where we need to start understanding that there's the imaginary wall that you have to be this high to get over. That has nothing to do with like sustaining a company or keeping a publisher going or any of that. It is purely about we need to do this so we get enough profit so we can all go home and swim in our money pools. My personal money pool is getting low. You needed to give me at least this much money for my pool.
Even Scrooge McDuck eventually paid his employees.
Oh yeah, Scrooge. I mean, we'd love to have Scrooge now. But to go back to something that we were talking about a little earlier, the thing about I've been thinking about this a lot. I don't think it was Diablo 2 that people wanted because we got Diablo 2 back and people are playing it to a certain degree. It was Diablo 3 because was it online? Yes, you had to log in, but is it still like you basically can play it solo without ever having to worry about talking to anybody? You won't run into anybody while you're doing anything. And aside from the fact that the Diablo team can no longer seem to understand how to keep their, seasons working, it's still basically the exact same game, and people are still playing it. I see a lot of people in Diablo 3, and it's weird.
I see more people in Diablo 3 than Diablo 4, yeah.
It's like people don't understand that, what you were talking about with the idea of how much, like, this game's going to be good for a year, and then we're going to, move on. It's like we entered into that world where games can last for a decade or more. Like I think we're at 13 years for Diablo 3 at this point. But that they think that not that they can do that, but that they must do that. Like they want a cash cow. That's what battle passes are all about. It's like, how do we keep milking this game so that we make money off of it forever? So to justify the fact that we have to do work on it to keep people interested in it, how do we get money out of it? And now I'm not saying that publicly traded corporations should feel bad about wanting to make money. That's what they do. It's like asking cancer to stop being cancer. It's not gonna. That was a little mean to cancer. I'm sorry. But it really is this point where it's like you can't make the game assuming that it will be your next 10-year cash cow. And if you do, it's not going to be. Because that's not something you can control. That's something that happens organically from a fan community that wants this thing. In terms of what games I would like to see Blizzard make, I'm going to be upfront right now. StarCraft is the most criminally underused franchise. It's the most criminally underused game that I cannot imagine looking, let's be upfront. Blizzard stole a lot from Warhammer and Warhammer 40K. Warhammer 40K is practically like it's the mailman that StarCraft looks at instead of Warcraft 3 in terms of who its daddy actually is. That's just a fact. But my God, Warhammer, at least they're making games. A lot of games. And some of them are really good. Like, say, Rogue Trader or Darktide. There are some really great Warhammer games out there.
Yeah.
And you know why they're so great? Because, Games Workshop, for all of its weird quirks, it doesn't say, okay, tell me how it's going to be Arkham Asylum, but with Warhammer characters.
No, here's your license. Make a game. If it stinks, we'll pull the license. Have a nice day.
Yeah. It's like, Owlcat comes in and goes, we want to make this weird game with romance options. They're like, yeah, okay, sure. But in the romance options, everybody's afraid of, the horrors of existence, right? Yeah, absolutely. Good. Can I go now? I want to go get some coffee. Tea. Sorry, I want to get some tea. I'm English. I want to see them actually make the single player Ghost, ARPG type thing, the kind of looter shooter aspect of it. I want to see them make a Rogue Trader style StarCraft RPG. I would love to see that. No multiplayer. No always online. Maybe you can just have your always online for piracy's sake. All right, I will accept that you for no reason I have to log into a server to do this. I will accept it. You already had yours. I will accept that, but I don't want to play.
I accept it from Larian. I'll take it for this.
Yeah, but I accept it from like Cyberpunk. I have to do it with Cyberpunk, so I can take it from this. But nevertheless, don't give me monetization to the ridiculous levels. Don't just make a good game, and people will be playing it for years. And make it moddable for bleep's sake. Blizzard, seriously.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine if they released a Ghost game in the style of like Cyberpunk 2077 and allowed for modding?
I can imagine it. Unfortunately, I don't believe that reality is up with my imagination. But I can definitely imagine it. And it would be amazing because it'd be like night, instead of having Night City as your city that you live in, you have multiple options. It could be like Starfield if it was good. Sorry, I actually like Starfield, but I'm going to make that joke anyway. But yeah, I really feel like there's a lot of room. Blizzard isn't doing enough. It's doing a lot to try and make money off of the things it has. It is not doing enough to make me want to play the things it has.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I love Diablo 4. I really do. And I really feel like monetization is hurting it in a way that you guys need to back up on this. I really think it's the reliquaries and battle passes that are getting me, just because I'm confused at this point. I don't know how to tell people about them. I don't know what they're doing. Like how do I? Oh, couldn't I just? No, I can't just do that. I can't just. Didn't I get like a couple hundred platinum every month or something? Like every new? Nope, not anymore. Okay, well, this is awkward and confusing. That's great.
You do get a couple of hundred platinum if you complete the free reliquary, but you used to get like 600 or 700 platinum per battle pass.
Yeah, because you got it over and over again. You get like 60 here and 60 there, and yeah, it's just crazy. Like,
now you get 200 in like 2 chunks. So,
but yeah, just less of like worrying how to squeeze more money out of individual games and more making games is where I think that we'd be better off. And I really do think we need to see StarCraft games. Like the fact that there is no currently in production StarCraft game of any kind, as far as we know, is a problem. We should know. There should be at least one, and we should know about it. Also, bring back Titan. What the heck? Why not?
I mean, Titan is Overwatch, and we've seen what's happening with Overwatch.
Bring back the actual Titan that they were trying to do. But regardless, that's mine for this. Liz, do you have anything?
I think y'all have knocked it out of the park. So no, I think we got this one.
All right then. So I feel we're at time to end this. We're a little bit over. We've already had Liz do our really amazing site news, so I'm just going to refer back to that, please check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/BlizzardWatch. We've got a ton of podcasts out there. We've got Tavern Watch. We've got Lore Watch. There's pretty much, we're doing stuff for pretty much anybody who likes to be nerds, because we're nerds, in case you hadn't noticed.
I will add one thing for those of you who like tabletop role-playing games. We did just release our first episode of Legend in the Mist, a rustic fantasy tabletop game, and it's a pretty fun one. It's we're going to be publishing episodes of that for the next couple weeks. So if you are interested in that kind of low-key fantasy setting, I don't know if that's a good description. It's hard to describe. Tune in. It's a fun game.
And then
and also, go ahead,
I would also like to add that, again, as a reminder, because we do this on the other podcast, and I want to remind everybody here, if you have questions or topics that you want us to cover, please be sure to send those in. You can send your questions in to podcast@blizzardwatch.com. We ask that you specify the show that it is for in the subject line, as well as any special pronunciation of your name. And then if you want to hit us up on Discord, we have the Q and Podcast Questions channel, open to everybody. Same rules apply. If you are a Patreon subscriber, you can send those into the Patron Q and Podcast Questions channel in Discord. We tend to look there first as a way of saying thank you for helping us keep the lights on. And you can also send those messages directly to us on Patreon, and we'll make Liz send them to us.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do that.
See?
So also, what he means is we can make Dan send them to Liz to send them to us. And also probably some cat memes. If we get some cat memes out of it, I think I'll be happy. But regardless of how much you like cat memes, and although why don't you like cat memes? That's insane. Cat memes are great. This has been the Blizzard Watch podcast. Thank you to special guest Phil for being here with us.
Always happy to be back.
And thank you to Liz and Joe for basically being 2/3 of the triumvirate of power that makes this universe work. Thank you guys so much for being here with us as well. This has been the Blizzard Watch podcast, and we will be back next week.